Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another of these interview episodes of the SWW show. As you probably noticed in your feeds, this is a second episode because we're recording this the day before this goes live with a special interview episode with some people behind the brand new game, One Shell Straight to Hell. As always, I'm Mike, and let's get started and introduce the guests. Can we start, I guess, with Scott? Introduce yourself and the game we're here to talk about, and we'll jump to the next one.
Okay, so my name's Scott Millard, and I head up a publishing label called Feardemic, and we specialize in the singular genre of horror games. And we have the label's fairly new. It released its first game in early 2019, and oddly enough, that first game was called The Padre, which is related to One Shell Straight to Hell. And since then, we've published we've got about 7 games and about 19 different SKUs, and so we're growing quite fast, and we hope to almost double that this year. And oddly enough, fun fact, we are 100% owned by another company called Bloober Team, who just released The Medium, by the way. I just like to throw that in there.
I was like, that's a team that, like, it's enough where I was like, what I hit it. Yep, Medium's definitely where, like, I recognize the name from. I'm like, I recognize that name.
So yes, it just came out last week. But anyway, so Mateusz, your turn.
Okay. So my name is Mateusz Filipek. I spearhead the marketing efforts at Feardemic along with Giorgio Crozali, and I'm on the QA side of things of One Shell Straight to Hell. Well, what can I say more? After hours, I am an avid board and card gamer, and I'm lover of everything that is turtle and tortoise related.
Perfect. So let's get started then. It could be either of you, obviously, because you both know this really well. What, if people don't know, what is One Shell Straight to Hell? And I'm going to say that as much as I humanly can, just because I have to get it right.
Because it is a great name, isn't it? So One Shell Straight to Hell is, a game that sort of, I suppose, documents the evolution of a priest that is, and it's a classic story of good versus evil, and, where a priest is sent by the church to take on a whole host of demons and possessed furniture. And from there, the game gets very, it has action, adventure, great hosts of fantastic weapons, and and some really interesting base defense mechanics, and some really original traps. So, I suppose Mateusz, you've played it several hours. Sure. I think maybe you're the best to explain what are the greatest parts of the game.
Well, you were so eager, I did not want to interrupt you, of course. But, well, One Shell Straight to Hell, I would summarize it in 2 parts. First of all, it's one of the few games which allows you to play a priest, which gives sermons on Sundays and banishes demons with lead from Monday to Saturday. The character of Padre was created by a real priest, Reverend James, and the voice actor.
Wait, a real priest created this character? I have many other issues and concerns now, whatever church he works for. I'm just going to put this out there. Does there demons in his church that he's concerned about?
Well, maybe Scott can answer that better, because if I'm thinking correctly, he was a part of the exorcism group once. Is that right, Scott?
So Reverend James White is he's a real reverend, and he's part of the church in England, in the UK, and he came. He was introduced to us via a Warhammer group that he is part of, and so he had not only a sort of a really detailed understanding of games and game mechanics and how games worked, but also he had experience as a priest, and we kind of. And the Padre existed before him, but the Padre, we kind of thought that, the inclusion of, the Reverend James as part of the writing to shape the backstory and to shape some of the things he would say in the game would be, appropriate, because obviously, he is a reverend and particularly knowledgeable when it comes to all things Christian. But he did at one stage he have took part in a particular paranormal investigation, and I can reassure you that an exorcist didn't need to be called. Apparently, it was something really sort of non-threatening. But he was part of a church team that undertook a paranormal investigation. So he had some ideas how it sort of kind of goes along.
And that's just wild to me. That like just the idea that this game it's run by a priest who's done some exorcism. Like it's just so let's it's just a lot there. Let's jump mechanically into the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
No, go. I think you have something to go. Go on. What you want to say there?
Well, sure, of course. One Shot Straight to Hell, from a mechanical standpoint, is a relatively fresh mixture of genres. We'll have the standard twin-stick shooter with roguelite, as well as tower defense and dungeon crawling.
Obviously, I think it's a mixture of genres that either in vogue right now or in and out of vogue. I think the one that interests me the most, and I always want to pink on whenever I talk to someone that is talked about them, is a tower defense game. I feel like tower defense games had these heights in 2012 to 2014 was kind of this height of tower defense, and then it kind of went away as a genre. What is it that is it this game that makes it feel like it's a genre we need to bring back, or what is the fresh take on this tower defense genre that really makes it stand out compared to the reason the genre really died was because it felt like a lack of interactivity for the users, or some level of lack of control, / obviously we get so many, it's so much, kind of killed the genre. So I'm kind of curious, why are we coming back to this tower defense genre?
Well, I'll explain it by going through the core loop of One Shot Straight to Hell itself, because it is divided into two sections. One of the sections is exploration, which is the closest to the dungeon crawling experience, a roguelike experience that you can get. During that time, we have a limited amount of time to reclaim parts of the mansion that is currently being haunted and invaded by demons. We have to gather as many materials, coins, weapons, and items as we can, because during that time, a doom clock is ticking and another invasion of demons is imminent. And our only chance of surviving the demon incursion is to go to a safe bunker in the backyard. And during these defense sections, we'll have to spend our resources creating traps and items that we will be deploying on the field, but all the time we have Padre under our control. So it's not just about placing traps and using our wits against our enemies, but also going gun blazing when demons themselves come crawling out of the woodwork. But all the time we are trying to protect Emily from demons that are trying to take her away from us, because she's quite an important character in the game.
So that makes a lot of sense, kind of. So it's this loop of protecting. So when you say you're protecting Emily, let's kind of go on that for a second. Do you mean there's an active person on the field in which you're protecting, or is it just this broad concept of who you're protecting while you're playing the game?
Well, there is a character inside the game, Emily, who in the tutorial world we have just managed to whisk away from the demonic incursion, and she resides inside the backyard. And we will have to tuck her away to safety and defend her as much as we can. We will also have other companions along the way that will be helping us with that, but we can lose those companions along the way. But as soon as we leave Emily open and she gets captured by demons again, then we will lose the game. And that's where the roguelike element comes in. That is one of the ways that the players can lose the game, besides, of course, dying.
That's a very interesting. So obviously this game is a roguelike in that way. Also, then, do you guys really lean? So one of the things I think roguelikes in recent years we've seen is some level of continual progression. I feel like is it the new thing in the genre? It's not really new, but that's kind of what made roguelikes become more popular, kind of obviously Rogue Legacy started at Darkest Dungeon, stuff like that. Do you guys kind of lean into that some more, or do you lean into more this traditional roguelike of no, you'll die, you just have to do it again?
Well, more to the second part, when you perish, you don't save any progress between the games, but the beginning of the game is made in such a way so it will always make it easier for you to start, and then the difficulty starts ramping up. Additionally, no two starts are the same because you will be starting with different weapons, you will be starting with different items as well as different trap setup. Also, your first exploration levels will be quite different because each exploration level inside the game is randomly generated. And you will be also given, during that, of course, if you manage to claim, you'll be given a random set of items and weapons along the way.
So that's a very interesting thing. So I'm curious. As you said, you're doing a lot of QA on the project, kind
Mhm.
of. How messy is it to you, kind of just testing something which is so procedural and replicating those bugs? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, quite difficult to be honest. And since, as you've mentioned, it is randomly generated, a lot of weird things can happen. For example, we have randomly generated room, and all of a sudden I can be just going for a mansion level and finding items and finding combination of rooms that did not look quite well in the early stages of the game. For example, you can find farming equipment and gardening equipment inside of a hallway or something akin to that, or kitchen equipment in the bedroom. Those were the first things, but when it comes to bugs, yeah, it was quite hard to replicate them. It required a lot of runs to make sure that everything is polished. Around 200 hours of in-game time.
So for most people, that's how long it takes to beat roguelikes, I feel like. But that's a lot of. So like my background's game development, and to me that always sticks with a lot of replicate bugs and testing if you replicate them. And obviously, when you're like, it's all procedural, I just go, oh no. I just could feel the headache appearing already.
Yeah, it was a challenge, but it was a lovely challenge, to be honest.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm kind of curious. Going between actually both of you, since obviously we don't hear from you, how minutes got to. What is when you guys are kind of playing through the game? What is that favorite thing to you that really like sticks out? That like you really like sticks with you from that experience of playing the game?
Well, Scott, would you like to start?
No, because you've played 200 hours of it. You've got the best answer.
I've got the best answer. All right, so besides randomly generated rooms, I think that besting all of the enemies in One Shot Straight to Hell gives me the most satisfaction because the variety is just astonishing. From cupboards that are spawning Lovecraftian cutlery that is coming after you, from undead whales that are spitting out undead pirate skeletons, you will find everything there. A little bit mad, but mostly coherent and 100% fun. Also, you have a really nice array of weapons to use because, well, Padre is a priest. You will find conventional weapons there for all of our purist lovers like shotguns, sniper rifles, but there are also some wacky stuff in there like holy grenades, wink wink, and guns that summon demons from the bowels of hell. There's even a gun that is quite literally ripped out from Aliens, where you're implanting an alien entity inside an enemy and taking control of it. So, a lot of things to experiment with.
That is like so. I like that. So to me, I just picture the demon gun being like akin to like the Ghostbusters proton pack, but you're putting in reverse, kind of, but with like a priest wearing it. So it's way funnier in my head. But I know it's
Indeed.
And another point, like it's a little more serious or scary, but in my head I'm just picturing like you're like reverse sending out a Slimer out into the world attacking for you.
Exactly. You can just imagine that when you shoot it, you're spawning an entity of hell, a giant tentacle that is whisking away your enemies, and just another Monday for me.
So I know that again, I mean, sometimes it's all about the gameplay, but there is an interesting story that you can actually find throughout the game, and it's sort of uncovered to you in snippets. That you find throughout the mansion. So it's really worth looking for that if you can, because you will find a very interesting backstory that was written by the Reverend James White.
So I'm curious, obviously you don't want to spoil the entire story. Is there any broad swaths level you kind of give us a teaser of kind of like what is that story we should be expecting?
How much can we say, Scott? I don't know.
I think the big giveaway is that he doesn't die in the end.
That's
like the Vatican version of James Bond, he doesn't die.
He just gets recasted by a different guy who's 20 years younger, and they just all pretend it didn't happen before.
That's right.
Yes. That is the Vatican way. Whenever there are problems with HR, we're just getting other people and renaming them.
This man went into early retirement, but here's our new priest. It's very simple.
Yes, exactly. He is the 2nd or 16th, depends who we have in the register currently. Free.
And then you have a split a couple games down the road where there's 2 priests both claiming to be the correct priest, and you have to have that fight. It's a whole nother thing.
Oh, we're taking this. I'm writing this down. I hope you're not mad about it, but I'm writing this down.
So, as we kind of talk about those, so I'm just kind of curious. So obviously, we're here to talk about One Shell Straight to Hell. But okay, curious. So obviously, you guys are a label that is growing massively and quickly. It's very much sounding, as you put it, I think, in the email to you before. You're trying to double your output of games in this upcoming year, between SKUs and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's so many great games out there. I mean, just so I suppose to talk about Feardemic a little bit more. I mean, we are part of Bloober Team. Bloober Team own us, 100% of us, and we are very different than Bloober Team in that Bloober Team is a specialist games developer sorry about the microwave. But we're a specialist game. Bloober Team are a specialist games developer that focus on psychological horror, and they have some very, very successful games. But they're very specialized in what they do. Their games are sort of within a sort of a range, type of quality targeted at a type of audience. Whereas Feardemic, we publish games produced by third parties. So we're not creating them, as much ourselves. We are involved in the whole process, of course, but not, as Bloober Team are as when they're developing everything and publishing it at the end. So we can scale a lot quicker. And also, I suppose the other great thing about Feardemic is that we. Even though we're really focused on the genre of horror, we don't have as strict an interpretation of horror as Bloober Team does. So we can look for things and do things that are a little bit different. We can find humor. We can find horror games that are traditional. We can find horror games that are more puzzle games or more platformers. We can find games that are targeted to an older audience, to a younger audience. There are so many places that we can go with this to build a sort of comprehensive, really interesting catalog of horror games. So yeah, it is not your average publisher. It is something a little bit different, but it is it's fun, and we're sort of kind of privileged to be the custodian of what will the future library of games published by Feardemic will be.
So I'm very curious then, kind of that. So obviously, I've worked for developers and I've worked for publishers before, and especially your guys' model, I feel like is interesting because it sounds like you're defining the genre in broad terms, but you're still going being like, here is a broad level genre we are sticking with as a publisher. And I'm curious, kind of, is there some concern in the long term there of growth? Because even if you could grow that genre, it's still going to have a natural bottleneck more than a broad developer that's willing to publish anything per se.
Well,
yes.
Yeah.
But in other ways. Carry on, Scott. We don't see it much as a limitation because you can go with horror to most anywhere with a game. You can make a horror card game or even a horror sport game. Well, the world is currently our oyster, and we will see where the world that will get us, right?
Yeah, it really comes down to your definition of what horror is, or are you open to all types of games or all genres of games that are infused with horror? And I mean, from the time that you were, watching cartoons on a Saturday morning, you are introduced to the concept of horror, whether it be the Addams Family or whether it be, Monster High. You are also, then that evolves as you get older. And
don't forget about courage.
Yeah, it evolves as you get older and your tastes change, and the types of horror games that you're interested in change as well. So, literally, I was about to say, did everyone lose me?
No, I got it was me for a second. My internet just decided to not enjoy. Looking at all that, then kind of, and I'm just kind of curious if we could stick with you guys for a second here. Then, what to you then is, because I don't know if I can find any new things, or maybe I have and missed it. Kind of the upcoming things for you guys that you're publishing that you're really excited about that you've talked about already.
Well, I think, we there's a lot of games that we haven't announced yet, so we shan't announce them tonight. There will be a time, but I think what we're really most excited about is the next gen of consoles that are out now. I think Bloober Team have just released the Medium, and it's really taken full advantage of the technology and the processes, the technology of the machine to be able to run multiple sort of worlds simultaneously. And we're about to release Dark Complete Edition on PlayStation 5 and Series X. And we've been able to sort of, take a game that, was designed. I mean, it was beautiful to start with for PC, but now it's going to look amazing on the new platforms, and plus all the addition of haptics and the addition of the feedback technology. I mean, it's going to be so much more of a visceral experience. And I think that's where, all games are going to go over the next couple of years. And certainly we're talking to all the developers that we're working with at the moment about, focusing your energy on, leveraging everything that those consoles bring to the tables to make it a much more of a visceral experience. And I think that's where we're going to go as a sort of a label, and certainly that's what we will be promoting as we're talking to all the developers who are working on games for predominantly PC, but of course we help them to port them over to the to consoles.
So to clarify, because obviously in the beginning, I think it's very common for developers and publishers to support the new features on these consoles. But so your plan for at least the time being is to use these new features, like I think of like the PS5 controller and that like very specific triggers, which you could do a lot of things with. Kind of, I assume that's in at least, especially with horror being very interactive. You could do things to like really mess with the player and like lock that trigger and stuff, and like really kind of make them feel like I can't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think. We're at the beginning of the cycle now, and, I think once in, 4 years or 5 years down the track, all these things, which is sort of kind of feels a bit new now, will be, pretty much in every game. They won't necessarily be that revolutionary, as Rumble is. That those features are embedded in it once we do the ports to the next generation consoles.
Nice. So yeah, well, it's kind of jumping back on the game, obviously. So just getting some final stuff there. So the game, as we talked about, has been talking about earlier, is One Shell Straight to Hell. So to clarify, it says currently on Steam, I wish you were hitting this, your release date is real soon for this game, right?
Indeed.
February 9th. So this is posting on the 5th. 4 days later, this game is coming out on Steam. Guns a-blazing, demons a-yelling. So once this comes out then, is there any plans, can you support the game, to do sequels, any of that stuff, or is it still kind of, you have to wait for the response to kind of decide what's next for the game?
Well, we can say one thing, that there is a DLC for you waiting, and it is to some extent our first day DLC, but it's free for everyone who will have the game on that day.
And that DLC is?
Well, it's a crossover between Layers of Fear and One Shot Straight to Hell.
Okay.
So we'll be taking the character of Padre Alexander and going with him to the world of Layers of Fear. You can relive to some extent experience of Layers of Fear and put an end to fears that you might encountered during your playtime of it.
Yeah, we thought that'd be a really fun addition to sort of add to One Shot Straight to Hell at the beginning. I mean, at the launch. Again, you can probably guess. I mean, One Shot Straight to Hell is a kind of a bit of a tongue-in-cheek kind of game. There's a sort of a sort of an overarching sense of fun about the whole thing. And Layers of Fear being a really serious game, we kind of convinced the owner of Bloober Team to allow us to borrow it, and it was kind of a fun project, and it's only a short DLC, but it's if you play it and Layers of Fear, you will recognize a lot of it, and you can even get attacked by the easels. But anyway, I think you'll have to investigate that on day one.
Nice. So that's exciting. And then to clarify for everyone, just so we have this right, so the DLC we said is free. The game, I had it up a second ago, is going to be how much at launch?
$19.95.
For One Shot Straight to Hell on Steam? Just Steam. I'm making sure I'm not...
Just Steam at the moment.
Okay, I'm making sure I could say a lot of times I'm like, I have no stuff and I'm
just
losing
Steam,
them.
but let us put a pin in that.
We'll put a pin in that, expect the Switch port in the next 6 months. Perfect. I'm glad we understand each other, which is obviously the first thing you're going to ask. You're like, a roguelike? So it's Switch port.
Yes, it seems to be the natural platform for it. But again, there's a really long story about the whole Padre franchise that we have, and it's actually kind of, so the first game that was ever released on Feardemic as a label was the Padre. It was released on PC first, of course, then PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. But it was a very, very different game, and it looked very, very different. And one of the things that stood out about it was this. Again, the character, the depth, the potential depth of character, the potential depth of story that could be added to it. And, and to be honest, it wasn't a huge seller. It was a sort of a moderate seller, but, all the reviews that we got on Steam were mostly positive. And in fact, it was like 100% positive. It was one of those weird things. And so we kind of talked and decided that we should go with a second one. We won't call it Padre 2. What we'll do, we'll call it One Shot Straight to Hell, and we will go in a completely different direction because the first one was more of a puzzle game, and we would go in a completely different direction as a shooter. So it kind of evolved from there, and so it's kind of the Padre as a character, this game as a franchise of the game is very sort of close to the heart of the entire organization, and we really want to see it succeed, and we're going to be sort of doing as much as we possibly can to get it in front of as many people as possible. I don't know whether the movie's coming this year or not, maybe next year. But we've yet to have an offer, of course. But we think it would make a great movie. But we hope that we'll see it on other platforms over the course of the year, and it will sort of gain some traction because it is a really interesting combination of styles, mechanisms, and ideas.
Perfect. Well, that is exciting. Again, guys, thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk to me during your evening right before launch of this game, which means you probably have 1,000 things to do. And again, thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, it was fantastic. Thank you very much for having us. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was superb. Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
This episode is partially brought to you by the Humble Choice program. Did you know Humble Bundle has a great monthly subscription service that lets you get a ton of video games every single month? That's right, from plans range from $5 to $20 a month, you get a hold of a bunch of free games they have available to you. And you could use our code down in the description below to go and sign up. It would help our podcast and help you see what great games are available for you this month. This podcast was a production of the SWW Show. To learn more, go to theswwshow.com. Remember, you can follow the show on Twitter at the SWW Show. You can follow me at Mikey_Maroney. You can follow AJ at LowSeatBoy. Remember, new episodes premiere on Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time on anchor.fm/SWW and podcast services around the globe.